The massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished diamond walls that sparkled with countless embedded lights. The air hummed with the low vibration of anti-gravity generators keeping dozens of floating seats suspended in perfect formation around the central holographic display platform. Representatives from 47 different star systems filled these seats, their alien forms creating a bizarre tapestry of evolution's endless creativity. Admiral Vexstar of the Altarian Empire stood at the center, his chrome-plated exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's brilliant illumination. His species had long ago replaced their organic bodies with mechanical perfection, and his voice carried the cold precision of advanced processors as he addressed the assembly. Esteemed council members, his words translated instantly into dozens of alien languages through neural implants. Today's deep space reconnaissance brings us an unusual discovery. Our long-range sensor arrays have detected something in Sector 7 Alpha that defies our standard classification protocols. The representatives stirred with mild interest. Most had attended hundreds of these briefings over their extended lifespans. The Galactic Council's military assessments typically involved territorial disputes between minor worlds or the occasional pirate incursion from the Outer Rim territories. Commander Noel of the Vorthok hegemony shifted his massive bulk in his reinforced floating chair, standing over 3 meters tall with thick chitinous armor covering his muscular frame. He represented one of the galaxy's most feared warrior races. His species had conquered 17 star systems through sheer military might, and their dreadnoughts were legendary for their destructive capabilities. "Get on with it, Vexstar," Grixinol growled, his mandibles clicking impatiently. "Some of us have real wars to fight." The holographic display activated with a soft chime, projecting a 3-dimensional star map above the assembly. Red markers indicated known fleet positions throughout the galaxy. Massive formations of warships that could glass entire planets. But at the edge of the display, near a small yellow star, 12 tiny blue dots floated in formation. "These vessels appeared 6 cycles ago," Vexstar continued, manipulating the display to zoom in on the mysterious contacts. "Initial scans suggest artificial construction, but their size is unprecedented in our military databases." The scale comparison materialized above the dots. Standard Altarian battlecruiser appeared first, a wedge-shaped monster stretching 2 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with weapon emplacements and capable of carrying 50,000 crew members. Next came a Vorthok heavy destroyer, its brutal design optimized for close-quarters combat and planetary bombardment. Finally, the unknown vessels appeared alongside these giants. They looked like insects next to elephants. The chamber fell silent for exactly 2.3 seconds before Commander Grixinol's booming laughter shattered the quiet. His amusement was so intense that his massive form shook, causing his floating chair's stabilizers to whine in protest. "By the 7 moons of Vorthok Prime," he roared, "are you seriously wasting our time with this joke? Those things are smaller than my personal escape pods." Counselor Thylex of the Crystalline Collective leaned forward in her chair, her translucent form shimmering with barely contained disdain. Her species existed as living crystal matrices, their thoughts operating at speeds that made organic brains seem glacially slow. "Admiral Vexstar, surely even your mechanical sensors can distinguish between actual starships and orbital debris. These objects barely register on our threat assessment algorithms. Perhaps they're automated mining platforms," suggested Ambassador Morthic from the Spiral Arm Confederacy, his tentacles writhing with dismissive gestures. "Some primitive species probably launched them to harvest asteroids. We see this sort of crude technology from developing worlds all the time." The mockery spread through the chamber like wildfire. Representatives from the Gas Giant Collective made wheezing sounds that passed for laughter among their species. The silicon-based delegates from the inner core systems generated harmonic frequencies that expressed their amusement. Even the normally stoic energy beings from Dimension 7 pulsed with colors that indicated derision. Admiral Vexstar raised his mechanical appendage. Servos worry as he attempted to restore order. "Council members, please," while the size is unusual. The energy signatures we're detecting are anomalous. Our deep space monitoring stations are recording power output readings that don't match the vessel's apparent mass. Sensor ghosts interrupted High Magistrate Zoltharian of the Voidwalker Empire, his forearms gesturing dismissively. Your ancient Altarian technology is probably picking up solar flare interference.
Ow.
We've been telling you for decades, too. Upgrade those obsolete scanning arrays. Commander Grixenol slammed his massive fist onto his chair's armrest, the impact creating a small shockwave that rippled through the chamber's atmosphere. Enough of this foolishness. The Vorthok hegemony doesn't waste time cataloging space junk. File these contacts under debris field and move on to actual military matters. The Crystalline Collective concurs, Thylex added, her voice carrying the harmonic overtones that indicated absolute certainty among her people. Our computational matrices have analyzed the tactical data. Vessels of that size pose zero threat. To any established military force, they lack the mass for meaningful weapons systems, the volume for adequate crew quarters, and the structural integrity to survive actual combat. The chamber buzzed with agreement as representatives from dozens of species voiced their dismissal of the mysterious fleet, the galaxy's greatest military minds. Commanders who had orchestrated campaigns across multiple star systems all reached the same conclusion. Size equaled power, and these tiny vessels possessed neither. Admiral Vextar's optical sensors dimmed slightly as his processing cores calculated the political futility of arguing further. Very well. Motion to classify the Sector 7 Alpha contacts as non-threatening anomaly. All in favor? 46 hands, claws, tentacles, and energy projections rose in unanimous agreement. Only Vextar abstained, his mechanical conscience troubled by data that didn't quite fit the established patterns. Motion carries, he announced, with mechanical resignation. The contacts will be logged as minor space debris and removed from active monitoring protocols. As the Council moved on to discuss territorial disputes and trade sanctions, the 12 mysterious vessels continued their silent patrol of the distant star system, their true nature hidden beneath assumptions and arrogance that would soon prove catastrophically wrong. The Vorthok battlecruiser Dark Vengeance cut through the void of space like a predator stalking its prey. Captain Thokaran stood on the bridge's command platform, his massive frame casting long shadows across the weapon. Control stations. The ship around him was a testament to Vorthok military philosophy. Brutal efficiency wrapped in 2 kilometers of reinforced battle steel. The bridge itself stretched across 50 meters of gleaming metal surfaces, dominated by holographic displays showing tactical readouts and star charts. Dozens of Vorthok warriors manned their stations with practiced precision, their chitinous armor reflecting the red combat lighting that bathed the entire command center. The air carried the metallic scent of ozone from the ship's massive reactor cores, punctuated by the rhythmic thrum of the main engines, pushing the vessel through hyperspace. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Vragtok from the sensor station. His clawed fingers dancing across crystalline control surfaces were approaching the contested zone. The small vessels from the Council briefing are directly ahead, exactly where our intelligence predicted. Skokran's compound eyes focused on the tactical display, watching as 12 tiny contacts appeared on the screen. Even after 3 weeks, the sight of such puny vessels in open space struck him as absurd. His mandibles clicked together in the Vorthok equivalent of a predatory grin. "Outstanding," he rumbled, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had personally commanded the destruction of 6 enemy fleets. Signal battle stations. The crew has been getting soft during our patrol duties. These insects will provide excellent target practice. The bridge erupted in harsh Vorthok laughter as warriors began powering up weapon systems. Red warning lights bathed the command center as the Dark Vengeance shifted from cruise configuration to full combat readiness. Plasma conduits glowed brighter as energy flowed to the ship's fearsome arsenal, weapons capable of cracking moons and boiling away planetary atmospheres. Commander Gorthanel, Stakaran's second-in-command, leaned over the communications console. "With obvious anticipation, shall I open a channel, Captain? Give them a chance to surrender before we vaporize them." "By all means," Thokaran replied. Settling into his command, thrown with the satisfaction of a hunter cornering wounded prey, Let them hear the voice of true military might before they die. The communication array activated with a crystalline chime, broadcasting on all standard frequencies. Thokarin's voice boomed through the speakers. Unidentified vessels. This is Captain Thokarin of the Vorthok. Battlecruiser Dark Vengeance. You are trespassing in territory claimed by the Vorthok hegemony. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy you where you float. The response came almost immediately. It's transmitted on a frequency so clear it made Vorthok communication systems sound primitive by comparison. The voice that emerged from the speakers was calm, professional, and completely unexpected. This is Admiral Park Ji-woo of the Earth Defense Fleet, commanding the exploration vessel Soul's Pride. We are currently traveling through neutral space, as defined by Galactic Council Resolution 4S7, and have no hostile intentions toward any species or territory. Sokarin's warriors exchanged glances of disbelief, their combat readiness momentarily disrupted by sheer confusion. A female voice, from vessels smaller than Vorthok shuttlecraft, claiming to represent something called Earth that existed nowhere. In their military databases, Lieutenant Vraytok's mandibles twitched with nervous energy. Captain, should I run a scan on their database classification? This Earth designation doesn't match any known military powers. It doesn't matter what rock they crawled out from under, Thokarin snarled, his earlier amusement curdling into offended rage. The idea that such tiny vessels would dare respond to his demands with anything other than immediate surrender struck him as the ultimate insult. Commander Gorthanel activated the tactical display, showing the relative positions of the two forces. The 12 human ships hung in space like metallic insects, their sleek forms barely registering on the Dark Vengeance's threat assessment systems. And Captain Gorthanel reported with barely contained excitement, "Our weapon systems are fully charged. Primary plasma cannons are locked onto the lead vessel. We can vaporize their entire formation with a single salvo." Thokarin rose from his command throne, his massive form radiating the fury that had made him legendary among Vorthok military circles. He had conquered systems, broken enemy fleets, and watched entire civilizations kneel before Vorthok might. The idea that some unknown species would dare speak to him as an equal was beyond comprehension. "Open the channel again," he commanded, his voice dropping to the dangerous growl that preceded violence. "Let these insects understand exactly who they're dealing with." The communication array crackled to life once more. When Thokarin spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute certainty, backed by 2 kilometers of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. "Admiral Ji-woo," he pronounced the alien name with contempt, "you dare speak to the Vorthok hegemony with such arrogance? Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." The response came without hesitation, still carrying that same calm professionalism that seemed completely disconnected from the reality of the situation. "Scientific research. We respectfully request safe passage through this region of space." Warriors slammed their clawed fists against control panels, their amusement so intense that several had to steady themselves against their stations. "Enough!" Sokarin's bellow silenced the laughter instantly. His eyes burned with the cold fire of absolute certainty as he turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Krextel, target the lead vessel. Full power to primary plasma batteries." "Bye." "Captain!" Krextal's claws danced across his targeting controls with practiced efficiency. "All weapons locked, ready to fire on your command." Thokarin savored the moment, imagining the terror these unknown aliens must be feeling as they faced the full might of Vorthok military engineering, of small planets. Whatever primitive materials these tiny vessels were constructed from would vaporize instantly. "Fire!" he commanded with cold satisfaction. The Dark Vengeance shuddered as its primary weapons discharged. The bridge. Crew watched their tactical displays with eager anticipation, waiting for the satisfying explosion that would mark the beginning of target practice. The plasma beam struck their target with perfect accuracy. Energy simply vanished. The beams that should have vaporized the tiny ship were absorbed into what appeared to be a shimmering barrier around the vessel's hull. No explosion, no debris. If nothing had happened, Lieutenant Vraytok's voice cracked with disbelief. "Captain, the target is undamaged. Our weapons had no effect. Thokaran stared at his tactical display, his mind struggling to process what his eyes were showing him. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered defensive systems that could simply absorb Vorthok plasma fire. It violated everything he understood about physics, engineering, and the natural order of galactic warfare. Impossible, he whispered, his earlier confidence evaporating like mist before a sun. His weapons were working perfectly. It was his understanding of the universe that had just been shattered by 12 ships smaller than his shuttle bay. The bridge above the noise of failing systems and panicked crew members, his massive claws gripped the command throne so tightly that the reinforced metal began to crack under the pressure. I want every gun on this ship firing until those insects are space dust. Lieutenant Krextal's claws flew across his weapons console, sweat beading on his chitinous armor despite the bridge's climate control, plasma cannons cycling at maximum rate, particle beam arrays coming online, loading quantum torpedo tubes. 1 through 16. The dark vengeance became a storm of destructive energy. Its hull bristled with weapon emplacements that had laid waste to entire star systems, each one now focused on the 12 tiny human vessels. Plasma bolts streaked through space like angry red lightning, followed by blue-white particle beams that could slice through asteroids. Quantum torpedoes launched in rapid succession, hurricane of destruction, as if they were sailing through a gentle summer rain. Every plasma bolt was absorbed by those impossible shimmering barriers. Particle beams bent around the vessels like light around a black hole. Around each human ship, Commander Gorthanel stared at his tactical readouts with growing horror. Captain, we've expended 40% of our ammunition reserves. No damage to any target. Maxims, then fire everything. Skurina's voice cracked with the strain of disbelief. Overload the reactors if you have to. Nothing can survive this much firepower. Transmitters are being jammed. You can't contact Fleet Command or call for reinforcements. The realization hit Thokaran like a physical blow. Not only were these tiny vessels immune to his weapons, but they had also cut off his ability to warn the rest of the Vorthok fleet. He demanded, "Our communication arrays use quantum entanglement protocols." "Sir, the interference patterns don't match anything in our databases. It's like they're manipulating the quantum foam itself to block our signals." The 12 human ships began to move, and every Vorthok warrior on the bridge felt their blood turn to ice water. These weren't the clumsy maneuvers of primitive spacecraft or the predictable patterns of conventional military vessels. The human ships moved like living things, flowing through space with impossible grace and precision. The lead vessel, the Soul's Pride, performed a series of movements that made Thokaran's tactical computers crash trying to calculate the physics involved. It accelerated from 0 to 12% light speed in 1.7 seconds. It pulled a 90-degree turn that should have liquefied any crew inside, then stopped instantly without any visible thrust signature. "By the 7 hells of Vorthok Prime," whispered Lieutenant Vraktok from his sensor station. "They're not using conventional engines. These readings suggest they're manipulating space-time itself for propulsion." The other 11 human ships began weaving between the Dark Vengeance's weapon arrays like dancers, performing an ancient ritual. They moved in perfect synchronization, their formations flowing and shifting in patterns that seemed to anticipate every shot before it was fired. Plasma bolts passed harmlessly through spaces the ships had occupied milliseconds before. Particle beams struck empty void, where targeting computers insisted the vessels should be. "They're reading our firing solutions," Commander Gorthanel realized with growing terror. "Somehow they know where we're going to shoot before we pull the triggers." "Impossible," Thokaran snarled, but his voice lacked conviction. Nothing about this engagement made sense anymore. His ship, the pride of the Vorthok military, was being made to look like a museum piece by vessels the size of escape pods. "Captain." Lieutenant Krextal's voice rose to a scream. "Incoming projectiles. Multiple contacts from all human vessels." The tactical display lit up with new contacts racing toward the Dark Vengeance. But these weren't the bright energy signatures of contional weapons. These contacts appeared as dark voids on the sensors, as if they were weapons made of nothingness itself. The first projectile struck the battlecruiser's port side. and reality seemed to twist. Weapon didn't explode in any conventional sense. Instead, it created a sphere of gravitational distortion that bent space around itself. The Dark Vengeance's heavily armored hull, designed to withstand direct hits from antimatter warheads, crumpled like paper as the artificial gravity well compressed it into impossible shapes. "Hull breach on decks 15 through 22, screamed the damage control officer. But the breach isn't following normal physics. The metal is being compressed into geometric patterns that shouldn't exist. The second human weapon struck the ship's forward shield generators, and Thokarin watched in horror as his defensive systems aged decades in seconds. Advanced energy barriers that had taken years to develop flickered and died as their components suffered rapid temporal decay. Crystal matrices became sand, superconductors became rust, and quantum field generators became scrap metal.
Ouch.
"Down to 8%, reported the defense officer. "The temporal weapon is causing cascade failures throughout our defensive grid." A third projectile phased through the ship's hull as if it were made of mist, then materialized inside the primary weapons bay. The explosion that followed wasn't the bright flash of conventional explosives, but a ripple of distorted space-time that turned the battlecruiser's most powerful guns into twisted, abstract art. The bridge lights flickered as power systems began failing throughout the massive vessel. Emergency klaxons wailed as atmospheric processors struggled to maintain life support. The Dark Vengeance, which had begun this engagement as a predator stalking helpless prey, was being systematically dismantled by weapons that operated beyond the boundaries of known science. Admiral Yu's voice cut through the chaos with the same calm professionalism she had maintained throughout the entire encounter. The communication came through clearly, despite the ship's failing systems, suggesting the humans had complete control over the engagement. "Captain Thokarin, this is Admiral Park Ji-woo. Your vessel has been disabled, but your crew remains unharmed. We are transmitting medical assistance frequencies and emergency evacuation coordinates to your ship's computer. Our medical teams stand ready to assist with any injuries." The Koran stared at his ruined bridge, watching sparks cascade from overloaded control panels while his warriors struggled to maintain basic ship functions. In less than 6 minutes, 12 ships he could have crushed under his foot had reduced the mighty Dark Vengeance to a helpless hulk, but they had done so with surgical precision, targeting only weapons and systems while carefully avoiding any action that might harm his crew. It was a demonstration of power so absolute that mercy became more terrifying than destruction would have been. The captain of the Vorthok hegemony's finest battlecruiser sat in his command throne, surrounded by the wreckage of everything he thought he knew about warfare, physics, and the natural order of the galaxy. His ship hung dead in space, completely at the mercy of an enemy that had just redefined the very concept of military superiority. The crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council had never witnessed such chaos. Emergency lighting bathed the massive hall in harsh red tones as representatives from 47 star systems crowded around holographic displays showing the impossible footage from the Kepler system. The usual dignified atmosphere of galactic politics had shattered like glass, placed by raw panic and disbelief. Chancellor Kervex of the Altarian Empire stood at his command podium, his mechanical frame trembling with vibrations that his servos couldn't quite suppress. His optical sensors flickered rapidly as they processed and reprocessed the battle data, desperately searching for some explanation that wouldn't turn his understanding of the universe upside down. "This cannot be accurate," he declared as synthesized voice carrying harmonics of distress that his programming had never been designed to produce. "The energy readings from these vessels exceed our theoretical maximums by factors of hundreds. According to our calculations, ships of that mass should collapse into black holes if they attempted to generate such power levels." The holographic display above the assembly showed the battle from multiple angles, recorded by the Dark Vengeance's sensor arrays before they were disabled. The footage played in slow motion, allowing the council members to witness every impossible moment of the engagement. Plasma beams that could melt continents simply vanished against shimmering barriers. Quantum torpedoes worth more than most planetary budgets disappeared into what appeared to be pocket dimensions. Dr. Zixthera The chief science minister of the Crystalline Collective, materialized at the center of the chamber. Her species existed as living crystal matrices, or consciousness operating through quantum resonance patterns that allowed them to process information at speeds that made organic brains seem glacially slow. When she spoke, her voice carried the absolute certainty of computational analysis. "My fellow council members," she began, her crystalline form pulsing with colors that indicated extreme agitation. "Our most advanced quantum computers have been running continuous simulations since this footage was received. We have processed over 10,000 combat scenarios, analyzed every frame of sensor data, and consulted our most comprehensive physics databases." She paused, her form shifting to deep purple, the color of profound uncertainty among her people. "The conclusion is inescapable. The technology demonstrated by these vessels operates beyond our current understanding of physical law. They appear to manipulate fundamental forces, gravity, time, quantum mechanics, as casually as we might adjust our environmental controls." Ambassador Keltharan of the Voidwalker Empire rose from his floating throne, his forearms gesturing frantically as he spoke. His species had conquered the dark spaces between stars, mastering technologies that other races considered impossible. They had always been the ones with superior knowledge, the ones who looked down on primitive civilizations struggling with basic physics. "You're telling us," he said, his voice carrying the weight of species-wide pride crumbling, "that everything we know about science and engineering is obsolete, that our greatest achievements are toys compared to what we just witnessed?" The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, each species contributing their own analysis and disbelief. The gas giant collective's representatives communicated, through atmospheric pressure, changes that translated as deep, rumbling worry. The silicon-based delegates from the inner core systems generated harmonic frequencies that expressed their profound confusion. Even the energy beings from Dimension 7, who rarely involve themselves in physical reality, had manifested visible forms to participate in the discussion. Admiral Vex Mechanical's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. His chrome-plated form stepped forward, carrying data tablets that glowed with urgent information. "Council members, the situation is far more serious than we initially believed. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected similar small fleets in 7 different sectors of the galaxy. Each formation consists of approximately 12 vessels. Matching the specifications of those encountered by Captain Thokron, the chamber fell silent as the implications hit them. This wasn't an isolated incident or a single experimental vessel. An entire fleet, or possibly an entire species, possessed technology that made the combined military might of the Galactic Council look like primitive stone tools. High Magistrate Veltorin of the Aquatic Realms activated his environmental suits. Translation Matrix, his voice bubbling through the liquid medium that kept him alive. What are their intentions? Are they positioning for invasion? Are we looking at the prelude to galactic conquest? That's what makes this even more disturbing, Admiral Vexstar replied, his optical sensors dimming with what could only be described as mechanical confusion. According to all reports, these fleets maintain completely peaceful postures. They respond to hails with diplomatic courtesy, avoid restricted space, and have shown no aggressive intentions toward any installations or vessels. Commander Grixenol of the Vorthok hegemony shifted uncomfortably in his reinforced chair.
Ow.
The proud warrior who had mocked the tiny human ships just weeks ago now looked like a predator who had suddenly realized he was actually prey. Peaceful. Or not, he growled, his mandibles clicking with nervous energy. They just demonstrated that they could destroy our entire combined fleet without breaking a sweat. Their weapons turned the Dark Vengeance into scrap metal in minutes. That ship was supposed to be unsinkable. Tactical analysis is even more disturbing, added General Morthic from the Spiral Arm Confederacy, his tentacles writhing with agitation. They didn't just defeat the Dark Vengeance, they dismantled it with surgical precision. Every weapon system targeted, every shield generator neutralized, but not a single crew member killed. What level of control suggests they understand our technology better than we do? The weight of realization settled over the chamber like a suffocating blanket. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had operated under the assumption that they represented the pinnacle of technological achievement. Their combined knowledge, their vast databases, their accumulated wisdom of dozens of species, all of it had just been rendered obsolete by 12 ships, smaller than SHUTTLECRAFT. Dr. Zixthera's crystalline form pulsed with deep red patterns as she accessed her species' most classified databases. I have consulted our historical archives, including records dating back to the formation of the first galactic civilizations. There is no mention of any species matching these capabilities. These beings appear to have developed completely outside our sphere of knowledge. Could they be from outside the galaxy? Suggested Ambassador Teichskera of the Outer Rim Territories. Perhaps they're visitors from the Andromeda system, or even more distant regions. The energy signatures don't match any known stellar engineering patterns, replied Admiral Vexstar. Their power sources appear to be based on principles we haven't even theorized yet. Supreme Coordinator Jalthik of the United Worlds stepped forward, his ancient form supported by anti-gravity generators. He had lived through the formation of the Galactic Council, witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations, and commanded respect from every species in the chamber. My friends, he said, his voice carrying the authority of millennia, we stand at a crossroads. We can choose to view this as a threat to be opposed or as an opportunity to be embraced. These beings have demonstrated power beyond our comprehension, but they have also shown restraint and mercy. He gestured to the tactical display showing the disabled but intact Dark Vengeance. They could have vaporized Captain Thokarin's ship and crew without effort. Instead, they offered medical assistance and safe passage. This suggests intelligence, wisdom, and perhaps even compassion. The chamber buzzed with discussion as representatives considered the implications. Fear slowly gave way to curiosity as the galaxy's greatest minds began to grasp the enormous possibilities presented by contact with such an advanced civilization. The question, continued Jalthik, is whether we approach them as equals seeking knowledge or as primitives begging for mercy. Our response will determine not just our immediate survival, but the future of every species in this galaxy. Chancellor Curvex's mechanical voice carried new determination as he addressed the assembly. Then we are agreed. We must establish formal contact with these beings immediately. Not as conquerors or supplicants, but as fellow travelers in the cosmic journey. Seeking mutual understanding. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council, humbled but not broken, is prepared to meet their new neighbors in the vast expanse of space. The security perimeter around Galactic Council headquarters represented the pinnacle of defensive technology, accumulated over thousands of years. It's layer upon layer of energy barriers, quantum detection grids, and gravitational shields created an impenetrable fortress that had never been breached in the Council's entire history. Automated defense platforms capable of destroying entire fleets hung in perfect formation around the massive crystalline structure. Their weapon systems locked onto any approaching vessel. Admiral Jiwoo's ship approached this defensive maze. Without slowing down, the vessel, no larger than a standard shuttle, seemed almost insignificant against the backdrop of the Council's massive installations. Defense computers registered the approaching craft and immediately began targeting protocols, preparing to vaporize what they assumed was either a diplomatic vessel that had forgotten to request clearance or a suicidal terrorist attack. Then something impossible happened. The human ship simply passed through the first energy barrier as if it didn't exist. The quantum detection grid that should have mapped every atom of the vessel registered nothing but empty space. Gravitational shields designed to crush approaching objects harmlessly parted like curtains. The ship phased through each layer of defense without triggering a single alarm or defensive response. In the Council's security center,
Technicians stared
at their displays in growing panic. Chief Security Officer Vorthak, a battle-scarred veteran of dozens of conflicts, watched his most advanced systems fail one by one as the tiny vessel approached the main chamber. "How is this possible?" he demanded, his mechanical voice cracking with disbelief. "Nothing can penetrate our defenses. We have technology from 47 different civilizations integrated into these systems." His aide, a young crystalline named Zelthra flickered with patterns of confusion. Sir, it's not that they're penetrating our defenses. According to these readings, they're somehow existing in a slightly different phase of reality. Our weapons can't target what technically isn't. There, inside the main chamber, hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy waited in tense silence. The enormous crystalline hall had been reconfigured for this historic meeting, with additional seating platforms installed to accommodate species that rarely attended council sessions. Everyone wanted to witness first contact with the beings, who had casually redefined the boundaries of technological possibility. The human ship materialized inside the chamber's center, peering out of nothingness with a soft shimmer of displaced air. The vessel was beautiful in its simplicity, smooth curves and elegant lines that suggested form following function in ways the assembled aliens had never considered. No weapon ports were visible, no armor plating, no obvious defensive systems. It looked more like a work of art than a machine of war. A section of the ship's hull dissolved like morning mist, revealing an airlock that opened with perfect silence. The atmosphere in the chamber shifted as environmental systems detected and analyzed the air mixture flowing from the human vessel, a blend of nitrogen and oxygen that several species found surprisingly familiar. Admiral Park Giwu stepped onto the platform with the confident grace of someone completely comfortable in any environment. She wore a simple uniform of deep blue fabric that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, decorated with symbols that conveyed authority without aggression. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her dark eyes held the intelligence and compassion that had made her humanity's chosen representative. The most striking thing about her appearance wasn't her alien features, which were remarkably similar to several known species, but her complete lack of fear or intimidation. She stood before the combined might of galactic civilization with the calm assurance of someone who knew exactly where they belonged. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber without amplification. The translation devices worn by each representative rendered her words into dozens of different languages simultaneously. But something in her tone transcended mere communication. I am Admiral Park Ji-woo, representing humanity and the Earth. Defense Fleet. I come before you in the spirit of peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding. Chancellor Kervix of the Altarian Empire leaned forward in his floating chair, his optical sensors focusing intently on the human woman. His mechanical voice carried harmonics of confusion and desperate curiosity. Admiral Ji-woo, our most comprehensive databases contain no record of your species. We have cataloged every known civilization in this galaxy over the past 12,000 years. How is it possible that humanity has remained completely unknown to us? Giwu smiled, an expression that somehow managed to convey warmth and understanding, despite the vast differences between human and alien psychology. Chancellor Kervex, we are indeed relatively new to galactic affairs. While your civilizations have been building larger ships and more powerful weapons, humanity has been exploring different approaches to the fundamental challenges of space travel, energy generation, and peaceful coexistence. Dr. Zixthera, the Crystalline Collective's chief science minister, materialized at the edge of the platform. Her crystalline form pulsed with colors indicating extreme agitation and intellectual frustration. Impossible, she declared, her harmonic voice resonating through the chamber. The technology your vessels demonstrated violates every known law of physics. You manipulate gravity, time, and quantum mechanics as if they were simple tools. Our most advanced theoretical models can't even begin to explain how your defensive systems operate. Jiwoo turned to face the crystalline being, her expression remaining patient and understanding. Dr. Zixthera, your science is not wrong. It's simply incomplete. We haven't violated the laws of physics. We've discovered additional laws that your current understanding hasn't yet encompassed. Humans have a unique gift for approaching problems from unexpected angles, for finding solutions that seem impossible until someone explains them. She gestured gracefully toward the holographic display that showed images of the human fleet. Our ships are small because we learned that efficiency matters more than raw size. We discovered that a perfectly designed system can accomplish more than a massive one. Our weapons seem strange because we think about conflict differently. We see war as a failure of imagination, a problem to be solved rather than an enemy to be destroyed. Commander Grixinal of the Vorthok hegemony rose from his reinforced seat, his massive frame casting shadows across the platform. The proud warrior who had begun this entire encounter was now struggling with concepts that challenged everything he believed about strength and power. "Your vessels destroyed the most advanced battleship in our fleet," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and barely contained fear. The Dark Vengeance was unsinkable. It had conquered 6-star systems. How did ships smaller than our shuttlecraft achieve such total victory? Commander Grixinal, Giwu replied with genuine respect. "Your ship wasn't destroyed. It was carefully disabled. Every weapon system targeted, every defensive grid neutralized, but not a single life lost. That level of precision required more than advanced technology. It required a fundamental commitment to preserving life, even in the midst of conflict." She walked closer to the assembled representatives, her presence somehow making the vast chamber feel more intimate. "You see, humans learned long ago that true strength isn't measured by how much you can destroy, but by how much you can protect. Our defenses are strong because we value every life. Our weapons are precise because we understand that every being in this galaxy has hopes, dreams, and people who love them." The chamber fell completely silent as the implications of her words sank in. These beings possessed technology that could reshape reality itself. Yet they had chosen to use it not for conquest, but for protection. Ambassador Keltheron of the Voidwalker Empire leaned forward, his forearms trembling with a mixture of anticipation and dread. "What do you want from us, Admiral? What price do you demand for your superiority?" Jewel's smile widened, and for a moment every being in the chamber felt a warmth they hadn't expected from this encounter. "Ambassador Keltheron, we want nothing. From you, we seek to offer something to you, and to learn from you in return." She spread her arms in a gesture that somehow translated across every species present as one of openness and invitation. Humanity doesn't seek conquest or domination. We seek knowledge, understanding, and friendship. The galaxy is vast beyond imagination, filled with wonders that none of us can discover alone. We want to share our discoveries with you, learn from your unique perspectives, and together explore the infinite possibilities that await us among the stars. The silence that followed was profound. Representatives who had built their entire civilizations on concepts of military might, territorial expansion, and technological superiority sat stunned as they realized they were facing something entirely new, a species that had achieved ultimate power and chosen to use it for cooperation rather than conquest. Supreme. Coordinator Jalthik, the ancient leader whose wisdom had guided the Council for millennia, rose slowly from his throne. "Admiral Jiwu, if I may ask, why reveal yourselves to us now? You could have remained hidden, observing us from the shadows. Why risk this contact?" Yu's expression grew thoughtful, and when she spoke, her words carried the weight of profound truth. "Because isolation breeds fear, and fear breeds conflict. We've watched your civilizations grow and develop, and we've seen the beauty of your achievements alongside the tragedy of your wars. We believe that understanding can replace fear, that cooperation can replace conflict, and that together we can accomplish things that none of us could achieve alone." She bowed respectfully to the assembled representatives, a gesture that somehow conveyed both humility and dignity. "The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, diverse enough to accommodate every dream, mysterious enough to keep us all exploring. For eternity, we hope you'll join us in discovering what lies beyond the stars." As Admiral Jiwu walked back toward her vessel, the greatest minds in galactic civilizations sat in stunned contemplation. Everything they thought they knew about power, technology, and the nature of civilization had been transformed by a simple truth: that the strongest weapon in the universe might not be the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to understand. The ship dissolved back into nothingness, leaving behind only the echo of possibilities and the beginning of a new age among the stars. The end.